we go for launch.
5.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
4.
My friend, we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
This whole thing is insane.
3.
Quiet, please. I am analyzing.
Where's the kaboom?
2.
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
1.
Ladies and gentlemen, before your very eyes, the Quaker Oats Company will now introduce 2 new cereals.
I'm Quest, the crisp new cereal from outer space. The biggest selling cereal from Saturn to Alpha Centauri. Crisp is sugary sweet and vitamin charged to give you crazy energy. What's new with you?
I am Quake, the power cereal from inner space. Here at the Earth's core, I make Quake, with deep down sweetness and vitamins to give you the power of an earthquake. Get Quake.
Crisp is better.
Fellas, why not leave it to the kids out there? Take sides with either Quake or Quisp.
Or Quake.
Or Quisp.
2 new cereals from Quaker. Sort of a breakfast feud.
Remember what Saturday mornings used to be? Now the classic cartoons of Saturdays past are together again.
Why aren't you in school?
Because it's Saturday.
Saturday?
Saturday morning cartoons.
It'll be good, you know.
Turn on Saturday morning cartoons.
What channel?
Like groovy.
Every weekend began with heroes.
Calling Space Ghost.
Space Ghost here.
Get set for action.
Villains.
Greetings, Bat Brain and Boy Blunder.
And timeless, memorable characters.
Hey! More!
Incredible.
Take an unforgettable trip.
Arrivederci.
Greetings, my fellow galactic travelers, and welcome back to Planet 8. This is your mission commander Larry speaking to you from our hidden base. Chief Engineer Bob is here by my side as always in the command center, and circling Planet 8 in our orbital spy satellite is Reconnaissance Officer Karen.
And welcome back to Planet 8. As a matter of fact, you're fortunate in that it's Saturday morning on Planet 8. We're going to be discussing our favorite cartoons from years gone by. Before we get into that, we're going to also share with you our favorite cereal. It's tradition to be in your pajamas in front of the TV set and enjoy a bowl of cereal. Straight away, let's go over to Chief Bob. Why don't you share with us, Bob, what was your Saturday morning ritual?
Well, Saturday morning ritual was, of course, to get up, get in the other room, sit in front of the TV with my bowl of Quisp cereal, and watch my favorite cartoons, basically from beginning to end of the morning. I mean, no one ever left their house, man. All the kids were like in their houses watching their cartoons until the bitter end when it was like time to go out and play. But no, Quisp was definitely the cereal of choice, even though it like rips the heck out of your roof of your mouth. But back then, yeah, it was Quisp and Quake, and they had all the commercials where they would fight over, whose cereal you should get. And for whatever reason, I guess because he was this alien sci-fi type character, I leaned more towards Quisp because he was like the Martian kind of character, whereas Quake was the big old muscular miner, and I guess I didn't really identify with him too much. But those, speaking of cartoons, those commercials were done by Jay Ward.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jay Ward did the Quisp and Quake commercials. They did the Captain Crunch commercials. And then, of course, they also did George of the Jungle and Super Chicken.
Rocky.
What's that?
Yeah.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Rocky.
Is the
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Main claim to fame.
Yep. But anyway, I digress. Quisp cereal.
And Karen, up in the satellite.
Well, it would probably be something chocolate. So I would probably grab my little plastic bowl. It would be either Planet of the Apes bowl or I think the other bowl was Flintstones, but I really preferred the Planet of the Apes bowl. And fill it up with either, it could be Cocoa Krispies. Cocoa Krispies was good, but I'd probably rather have Cocoa Puffs or Cocoa Pebbles. Cocoa Pebbles seem to produce more chocolate milk and a really nice kind of sludge that was pleasing to the mouth. So those were my cereals of choice. And the problem, though, for several years was getting control of the TV, because my older brother, Steve, if you're listening, Steve, don't take this personally, but Steve had control of the TV in the mornings, and there were certain shows that he preferred to watch and shows that I wanted to watch, like Lancelot Link's Secret Chip, and I couldn't watch them because he didn't want to watch them. So sometimes it was an exercise in frustration being the younger child. But
the Evolution Revolution.
Yes, that band was fantastic. All these little chimps playing musical instruments. How could you not want to watch that? I don't understand to this day. So yes, I would at least have my cereal, if not be able to watch the show I wanted to watch.
Oh, well, at least it softened the blow.
Well, what kind of shows did he want to watch?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember all the shows he wanted to watch, but the fact that he was 6 years older meant that this only happened for a short, window of time, because then he got bored and he wanted to go out and do other things. And so there was maybe a 4 or 5 year window, and then I was free and I could control the TV. So.
Well, I was a fan of the toys that would come in the cereal. So I wasn't really devoted to one particular brand or flavor. If it was a little squirt gun or a little, communicator ring or whatever, I'd get that. And then my mother would get frustrated because I wouldn't eat the cereal because I didn't like the way it tasted. We had boxes of cereal sitting on the fridge. But
well,
I do remember.
It's funny because I notice now when there's things in cereal boxes, they're like in between the wax paper and the box.
Yes.
Whereas before it was in the cereal and it was always at the bottom. So you were either like digging your hand all the way down there, or you were pouring all this cereal out into a huge salad bowl or something, trying to get that toy.
Exactly. Well, I was kind of like Karen. I enjoyed the sludgy goodness of Fruity Pebbles. Wasn't a Cocoa Pebbles fan. Although I did like that Cocoa Pebbles would give you chocolate milk. So that was the bonus. You got cereal and chocolate milk.
Well, don't underestimate the sugary milk that Quest would leave behind.
Oh, my friend, I will not.
Well, all those cereals back then had a lot more sugar, so I'm sure we were all kind of, running around on a sugar buzz for the entire day.
Sugar, if not some crack cocaine. I don't know. But yeah, we'd go out and play for hours after that bowl of cereal. Well, hey, you know what? Thank you guys for sharing your favorite cereals. Let's get into what the episode's about. Animation, cartoons. Let's start off with Chief Engineer Bob. What's your pick for today's podcast, my friend?
Oh, God, it's an animation celebration. To this day, I still live for cartoons. So narrowing it all the way down to one is really tough. I mean, growing up, it was anything from Looney Tunes to Milton the Monster to... all the Hanna Barbera, Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, Snagglepuss, and all that. It was also just weird things too, like Batfink and the Mighty Heroes. You guys remember the Mighty Heroes?
Yeah. Vaguely.
Yeah. Vaguely? God, it was like Strong Man, Diaper Man, Rope Man, Cuckoo Man. Call goes out for the Mighty Heroes. But no, that was actually Ralph Bakshi. That was like a very early Ralph Bakshi cartoon. But that's not the one I picked, though. and then of course, if people who've been listening to the show know that I'm into all the Japanese stuff, so of course I was watching Astro Boy and Gigantor and Speed Racer and all of that. In fact, Speed Racer was a very, very close second to my choice for this episode. But as far as the best cartoon growing up watching, and I still watch it today because I just bought the new Blu-ray set not too long ago, had to be Jonny Quest. And Jonny Quest was just, to a kid, I mean, I think I was like, very, very young when it started, but of course it showed in syndication and everything else for quite a while. Just to be a kid, it was like you wanted to be Jonny Quest. I mean, he was the cool kid that got to go on all the adventures, and it was just an amazing show. And I did a little research, and it was on ABC. And it was actually in prime time. It wasn't Saturday morning to begin with. It was 7:30 p.m. on Friday nights. And that was following Hanna Barbera, who did the series, had 3 other shows on prime time before that. You guys want to take a guess on what those 3 were?
I think one of them was the Flintstones.
Flintstones, yep. Which, of course, means the other one would be... Jetsons. The third one's a tougher pick. It even surprised me. But then I remembered, I remember that being on at night. And that's Top Cat.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So
really?
Yeah. So they had done Flintstones, Jetsons, and Top Cat. And then they decided to go a completely different route and do an actual adventure show. And so they hired Doug Wildey, who basically was a comic strip artist. And so Jonny Quest, suddenly you don't have the big feet, big mouths like Fred and George Jetson. Suddenly you had characters that looked, like comic strip characters come to life. And it started on September 18th, 1964, which means it's the 55th anniversary shortly after this episode comes out.
Wow.
And it went to March 11th of 1965. It only lasted 1 season, 26 episodes, because it was the most expensive half hour of TV at the time. It cost them $65,000 per episode to make Jonny Quest.
Moly.
And if you really, if you watch Jonny Quest, the amazing thing is, compared to other animation at the time, it was very detailed, and it was very, shadows and a lot of blacks. I was watching one of the extras on the Blu-ray, and a couple of Brad Bird was talking about it, and a few others about the use of black. Johnny's shirt was black, but also a lot of the backgrounds and things were black, and a lot of animators avoided black back then. But they used it to make things really stark and dynamic. And I don't think they really did much of that until the animated Batman series, that came out. And that used a lot of blacks. But Hanna-Barbera originally wanted to do a cartoon based on a radio show / comic strip called Jack Armstrong, All-American Boy. And they had even done a test film on it, just to try to interest networks. And not much remains of it. However, if you watch the end credits of Jonny Quest, the very beginning and the end credits has scenes from that pilot film, Jack Armstrong. So the very first scenes you see in the end credits are not Jonny Quest. They're actually Jack Armstrong. But anyway, they decided to go original, do original characters that they can, obviously they can control. So they sent Doug Wildey back home, and in one evening he came up with Jonny Quest and all the characters. He got the name actually out of the phone book at random. He just looked through the phone book and he said, "Oh, Quest, that sounds adventurous, so let's use that." And so Jonny Quest was born, and he basically designed the characters one evening, influenced, he said, by Jackie Cooper and Frank Darrow films, the comic strip Terry and the Pirates, and under the direction of Hanna Barbera, Dr. No.
Huh.
So that was actually the only Bond film that was released to that point. So, but it was a huge hit. So, they wanted to add some of that espionage and things. And I think that's probably also where the evil Dr. Zinn came from. He was sort of their version of Dr. No. Yeah, the show lasted, like I say, for like 1 year because it was so expensive to make. And but it was a very ratings hit, critical hit. All the critics loved it. So it did thrive in syndication for a long, long time. But I was going to talk a little bit about the voice actors in the show.
Hey, Bob, real quick, how many episodes was that season?
26.
And was it like an hour-long show or a half hour?
Half hour.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I could see it being syndicated.
$65,000 for a half-hour show. So
it had a really cool theme song too, as I remember.
Oh yeah, Hoyt Curtin did the music. Hoyt Curtin did the music for most all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons back then. And he had a definite style. He also did the extra music for Battle of the Planets long after that.
Oh,
but
that's interesting.
But yeah, so he did a great theme song, and then all the music throughout the episodes was very cool. But voice actor wise, Dr. Quest, who was the patriarch of the family, was voiced by Don Messick. And Don Messick also did, and this is pretty wide range here, he did Bam Bam from the Flintstones. He did Astro from the Jetsons. He did both Boo Boo and Ranger Smith from Yogi Bear. He was Papa Smurf, and he also did the voice of Scooby-Doo.
Oh, wow. That is a wide range.
So Race Bannon was Mike Road, who was a movie actor in the 40s and a TV actor, sort of guest star roles throughout the 50s and early 60s. But he would go on to be Xandor, the Herculoids.
Herculoids, yeah.
Herculoid, he was Xandor. Ugg the Caveman from Dino Boy. And he also voiced Reed Richards from the Hanna-Barbera Fantastic Four cartoon.
That one I can see.
So, he had a pretty distinctive voice, and he didn't, unlike Don Messick, who did different voices, he was always the voice of Mike Road. So you could always recognize his voice when he'd pop up in different things. Haji, who was the adopted Indian son / brother to Jonny Quest, he was played by a child actor named Danny Bravo. And he had played an Indian boy previously in For the Love of Mike, a movie back in 1960, and he had a real bit part in The Magnificent Seven. But Tim Matheson, though, who did the voice of Jonny Quest, he went on to actual acting roles. He was the character Otter in Animal House.
Holy crap. Yeah. That was Jonny Quest, Otter?
That was Jonny Quest.
Yeah.
Also, he was Vice President Haynes in The West Wing.
Yep.
And I don't know if you guys saw Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle.
Mm-hmm.
They had that character, Old Man Varik.
Yep.
That was Jonny Quest. That was Tim Matheson.
Wow.
So he went on to do other things. There were a couple minor actors that I want to bring up too. One, of course, is Vin Perrin. He played Dr. Zinn, and he was also the control voice from The Outer Limits.
Huh.
And then near and dear to my heart, and I try to work this into anything I talk about, but Nestor Paiva, who played Lucas, the boat captain in Creature from the Black Lagoon and Revenge of the Creature. He did various voices in 2 or 3 episodes of Jonny Quest.
So, good for him.
Yeah.
So Lucas, back again.
Well, man, they had a lot of talent on that show with regards to the voice actors.
Well, they did. And, a lot of the writing was excellent. If you think about it, look at this show. As a kid, you had Lizard Men and you had robot spies, robot spiders. You had giant condors. You had a pterodactyl basically in a dog fight with biplanes. Dragons of Ashita. You had the big guy walking the 2 dragons through the jungle trying to catch people. You had werewolves. You had yetis. The Invisible Monster, where they had to... and the cool thing about the Invisible Monster episode was they also had the jetpacks. So, here's this monster that keeps, attacking these villages, and they're in the jungle. They had to find this thing. All they could see was its footprints. It was like an energy monster. They would make these footprints, but, they couldn't see him to, attack him or anything. So Johnny comes up with the idea, why don't we paint him? So they get like bags of paint and they fly over with these jetpacks and drop the paint on the creature, and it basically paints him, and then they can see him and take care of him from that. There's an excellent episode, House of the 7 Gargoyles, where they have this one doctor who created like this anti-gravity machine, and they basically had dressed a guy up as a gargoyle, and he was trying to go down and steal the plans and all that. And it's just, very, again, atmospheric type of episode. So, yeah, I mean, for a kid and his wild imagination, it was amazing. And then, back then that was before, well, A, it was prime time, and B, it was before the PTA came in and just totally screwed up cartoons for life. But, people would get shot, they'd get blown up, they'd fall, off cliffs and die. It's not like
all the things we like.
Yeah, well, it's not like he got taken to the hospital, he's okay now. It's like no, they had actual consequences to things that happened. In fact, there was the one Monster in the Monastery where it was basically these guys dressed up as Yetis trying to scare this village, and at the end of the episode, spoiler alert, I'll spoil one episode, Dr. Quest and Race and Johnny and Haji go to the monastery, and all these guys dressed up in Yeti suits are all dead, laying all over the ground, and it's like, turns out like the real Yeti came in and just slaughtered them all. So, it's like, hey, it wasn't dumbed down. It wasn't sanitized, for little kids. It was, an actual adventure show from beginning to end. And again, you mentioned the music. I mean, if you look at the beginning credits, it's like, it starts out with the drums, and then, the music comes in, and you see Turu the Terrible, the big pterodactyl, come flying over and screech into the camera. And then, you see a guy with a machine gun shooting at the robot spy, the giant spider, and it blows up, and you see the mummy come through and crash through the wall. Snakes, it's just all these things happening, boom, boom, rapid fire all at once. And it gets you all jazzed up before the actual episode even begins.
Well, that and the bowl of cereal, I could see it like bouncing off the walls at that point.
Yeah. But, Quisp and Jonny Quest is like, that was paradise when you were a kid.
No, it sounds very, very cool.
But yeah, I mean, it did go on for, in syndication for years. They did another, like the New Adventures of Jonny Quest in the 80s. They did a couple movies, got animated films. I think they're working on a live action movie now, but they're doing that with every cartoon that ever existed anyway.
That would be great if they get Flounder to play an adult Jonny Quest.
Yeah. And then, of course, as a Comic Co. had some comic books that were actually really good on Jonny Quest. In fact, Doug Wildey actually illustrated some of those. And, it's where the DVD set came out a while back, and it was slightly edited for content, which is kind of going against everything I just said about Jonny Quest. But the Blu-ray set just came out like a few months ago, and totally uncut. Everything's in there. There's one episode with a Poho tribe of Indians where Race Bannon basically dyes his skin purple and appears as their water god Akizio, and just to scare them all because he's trying to rescue Dr. Quest, who they had captured. And he comes out of the water, and of course they can't, they speak Poho or whatever. They can't understand what the heck he's saying. But he just like comes up and starts saying, he's like, feast your eyes on Akizio, you heathen monkeys, and all this. And they basically cut the heathen monkeys line out.
Probably a good idea.
But
I think they used that line in an episode of Scooby-Doo once.
Probably.
Hanna Barbera,
But
never throw away a good line.
Yeah.
So if our listeners are gonna choose between the Blu-ray or the DVD set, you recommend the Blu-ray because it's uncut and uncensored.
Oh, Blu-ray, most definitely, because it's uncut, uncensored, and it just looks beautiful. I mean, they went back to the original negatives and struck all new prints and everything, and it just looks amazing. So the DVD and Blu-ray sets are like night and day. Definitely
That's good
get
to
the
know.
Blu-ray.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for sharing with us, Chief. Let's kick it up to the satellite. Karen, what is your pick?
Well, my pick is not something I watched as a child, so I'm breaking a little from the rules, but I don't care because this is a very high quality show that I've selected. So my selection is the Justice League animated series.
Good one.
This was a Warner Brothers animation production and was on Cartoon Network originally. Came out in 2001 and basically ran as Justice League or Justice League Unlimited till 2005. So there were about 5 seasons. The first couple of seasons was as Justice League. And so during those first couple of seasons, you may recall that it was focused primarily on what they called the original 7 Justice Leaguers. Now, of course, there's been a lot of variations of the Justice League in the comics, but for the series, they settled on Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the John Stewart Green Lantern, the Wally Wood version of the Flash, Martian Manhunter, and Hawkgirl. So the first 2 seasons, we had those characters, and those first 2 seasons, it was kind of interesting because so they did 26 episodes per season, and for the most part, all the stories were 2-parters. So they'd do a half-hour episode to do part 1, and then a half-hour episode to do part 2 and finish it up. When they went into the 3rd season, they changed to Justice League Unlimited, and they added a ton of other superheroes. So pretty much any DC character you could think of wound up joining the Justice League at some point. And they kind of broke their old format, and they didn't focus as much on the original 7. They might have one of those characters in an episode and then bring in other characters like Green Arrow or Black Canary, Captain Marvel. By that I mean Shazam, Captain Marvel, and characters like that. And those episodes were more standalone in that they would tell a story in a single episode, but they had over the 3 seasons that they were Justice League Unlimited, they had story arcs. Like in season 2, Lex Luthor ran for president. So that was a big story arc that went across all of the episodes. But this was in the same universe as, I know we mentioned Batman before. So this was in the same universe as the Batman animated series and the Superman Adventures. And it was put together by Bruce Timm. So it had that Bruce Timm design, which is unmistakable. And, I think it gave me a greater appreciation for DC. Growing up a Marvel kid, I did, occasionally purchase DC books. I was a big Legion of Superheroes fan, but not as much Justice League, although I would read them occasionally. But this is where I really gained an appreciation for Justice League, and I guess probably forms my ideas about Justice League more than anything else. And just high quality stories. The animation style is so smooth and streamlined, really nice to look at. And of course, great voice acting. So just like Bob mentioned with Jonny Quest, you had some really good voice actors. Of course, I don't think anybody beats Kevin Conroy as Batman.
Right. I agree.
I mean, that guy, to this day, that version of Batman is my favorite media version. I don't care, live action, whatever. Yeah. I just think the way they portrayed Batman and the way he voiced Batman, it's perfect. It's just exactly how I would imagine Batman.
Well, I had read somewhere that he's going to be like another dimension, like an older Batman in the big Crisis on Infinite Earth Arrowverse crossover thing.
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, that should be really exciting to see. He finally gets to be a live action Batman, so that should be cool.
Burt Ward's going to be Robin.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
It's going to be very interesting.
He's going to be a round Robin.
He's going to be around. Well, Linda Carter's coming back as Wonder Woman.
No.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Whereas in the
Everybody's
Supergirl, I think she's like
she was the president.
Right, Bob?
She was an alien president. Yeah.
She was president for a while. But yeah, I think she's coming back as because there are all these infinite worlds or whatever. So, they're
wow. Well, it's Arrow's last season, right? So they're going out with a bang, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, Justice League, I think, they had a lot of people on the show who were real comics fans, and they brought in, they adapted a lot of stories from comics too. I think one of the best ones was when they adapted an Alan Moore story called For the Man Who Has Everything, which is basically a situation where Superman got kind of trapped in his own mind in a thinking he was living on Krypton, and then Batman and Wonder Woman had to come in and save him. It was a really nice story that illustrated the relationships between those three characters. And they just did everything. I mean, they weren't afraid to embrace the whole DC mythos and history and bring in, really obscure characters. They had one episode with the Warlord. I don't know if you guys ever read Mike Grell's Warlord series, which was sort of an homage to all those like center of the earth type stories.
Yeah, I've seen the artwork, but I've never read any of.
So everything from doing typical stories in the Injustice Gang or Luthor, or they brought in Darkseid. They had stories on Apocalypse.
Yes.
They went into the future and met the Legion of Superheroes. So they just brought in everything. It was like everything you could want, and it was so well done. And they really explored the relationships with the characters, and they did new things, like they had Hawkgirl and Jon Stewart become romantically involved, which wasn't something in the comics. So it gave you a new angle that you hadn't seen before.
It was nice that they could do stuff like that, so that you weren't watching something that you already know is going to happen, or not necessarily. I mean, that was something, like you said, new. So that was kind of refreshing.
Right. It wasn't, you weren't just being told the same story. You didn't sit there and anticipate exactly what was going to happen. It was a nice mix of the familiar and brand new. And
I felt they really captured the relationship between Wonder Woman and Batman. There was a very deep respect between those two characters. I remember one story in the comics where Diana is blinded. And she can't see, and so she has a bandana wrapped around her eyes. But she's like, I can still be in the Justice League. I'm paraphrasing the story, and she's like, come on, attack me. And all the heroes are like, I don't know. But Batman went at it like tooth and nail, and she was able to hold him off. And she's like, thank you, Bruce. I knew I could count on you. Basically to try and kill me, because, any foe out there is not going to hold back. They're not my friends. And I felt that carried through into the animated series rather well without telling that story.
Right. There was a mutual respect, especially between the big three. And it was kind of interesting because they hinted at maybe some romance between Wonder Woman and Batman, but it was really a reluctance on his part to to get involved with her, which was kind of interesting because I think people always tend to try to put Superman and Wonder Woman together, but the idea of Batman and Wonder Woman was kind of intriguing.
Yeah, yeah.
So what years did the series actually take place?
It was 2001 to 2005.
Oh, okay.
And there were 91 episodes in total. And they did do a little bit of crossover with some of the existing shows like Batman Beyond and Static Shock. There was some interesting episodes where they went to the future. So they went to the Batman Beyond future. So they did tie all of these different WB DC shows together in the sense that, showing there was some connectedness.
That's cool.
Between them. Yeah. And I just think it was probably, as far as I'm concerned, probably the best superhero animated series out there, even though I really liked the Marvel's, the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, not the second series they put on, which was crap.
Yeah.
But the first Avengers series they did was actually pretty good. But I think this is just, a touch above of that, and quality all the way around from the voice talent. I mean, in the villains, they had really great voice talent for the villains. You had Clancy Brown as Lex Luthor, just such a great voice. The way he was able to emote, he would be like really calm and then lose it, and it was just great. And Michael Ironside as Darkseid, Powers Booth as Gorilla Grodd. So they got these really, pretty well-known actors. I mean, some of these guys are better known as character actors, but you would recognize them, pretty readily. And they brought a lot to their roles. They're not just like, phoning it in. They're really emoting and acting in these roles. And I think that was a huge strength to the series.
Yeah, it's a great series. It still holds up today. I'm a big fan as well. There was this poster at the comic shop of the 7 heroes, and I still have that hanging up in my office.
Well, in that opening too, where they show them walking out, and that's the only thing that's really the animation in that is somewhat computerized. They did like a sort of a 3D-ish kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the theme song is great. That dun da da da. But
I love that.
It is really great. But the interesting thing is, if you go online and do a little looking around, there's a lot of comparisons of that theme song to the opening or the theme song to an old Hammer film called Twins of Evil. And you can find side-by-side comparisons, and they are very, very similar. So if anybody's interested, just Google like Twins of Evil Justice League, and you'll find some videos out there, and listen to those. And you might be surprised how similar Twins of Evil sounds to Justice League.
And I must say, I was talking with Karen about this before we started recording. And, I'm always skeptical when people say, well, this or that. And no disrespect to Karen or Bob, but, I'm like, okay, well, I'll check it out. And, oh, my God. I mean, it like blew my socks off. It's almost as though they copied it like note for note. It is beyond very similar. I think it's the same song, and they just kind of like put more trumpets or
so
whatever.
You're talking ripoff now.
Man.
Well, and you never know, and I don't want to say anything, because I think sometimes people hear things and they subconsciously store them, and it's entirely possible that's what happened here, but I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
check it out, listeners.
Draw your own conclusions.
Yes, let us know what you think. Well, that was cool.
What about you, Larry? What's your pick?
He's picking Super Friends.
We don't need no stinking Super Friends.
I loved the Super Friends so much. I can't remember what store. It must have been Kenny, because we'd go to Kenny Shoes all the time. And my mother got me Super Friends high tops. I don't know that they were Converse necessarily, but I loved those shoes. I kept the shoe box. That was like my little treasure box and stuff. I loved that show.
Well, I mean,
Ted Knight
Jonny Quest
doing
was
the
the reason
intro.
that Jonny Quest was the reason that I wore PF flyers. They had a PF flyer commercial with Jonny Quest, and you could get a secret decoder ring.
Yeah, dyed your hair blonde. I mean, I remember all that, Bob, when we were.
It's lighter now, but it's more gray than blonde.
Adopted a young Indian boy.
Yeah.
We'll edit that out. We'll edit it out.
Well, my friends, so that being said, something near and dear to my heart, and for our listeners, Ito, I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with me on this. March 2nd, 1973, NBC announced the return of Star Trek. Star Trek was coming back as an animated series. They'd reached out to Gene Roddenberry, as far back, let me see my notes, as October of 1969 to discuss bringing Star Trek. And the original idea was to have these cadets. And Gene didn't like that idea. And he's like, look, if you're going to have me involved, we're going to do Star Trek with Kirk, Spock, McCoy. That was the original plan. And, it was done by this company called Filmation. And Filmation, this is going to be interesting. Bob, you talked about Hanna Barbera doing the Flintstones and Primetime and the Jetsons. Filmation cranked out spin-offs such as Gilligan's Planet, The Brady Kids, and also, this surprised me, a MASH spoof called Mush.
Oh.
Filmation was huge back then.
So
they did Tarzan, they did a Batman series, and
they were like it was like a factory, and they would use techniques like recycling shots and rotoscoping. Karen, you're a big fan of rotoscoping.
A lot of rotoscoping.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, someday we'll talk about the Lord of the Rings experience that I put you through, but not today.
Well, just really briefly for the audience that doesn't know, why don't you describe what rotoscoping was?
Please do, Bob. We'll let our engineer get into rotoscoping.
Oh, okay. Basically they would film people running, walking, doing various action things, and basically just trace them and make it a cartoon out of it. So basically, rotoscoping was, I guess, a very, very early version of CG where people are wearing.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Because, you got the motion cap actors now, but back then it was like, same thing. They were, they were doing all the movements, and then they were just,
rather than a computer, they would just trace over
them.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, Chief.
Oh, okay.
So not only did they bring back William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and DeForest Kelley, Gene Roddenberry, they also brought back a lot of the writers from the original series. It was to Nimoy's credit, though. He's like, look, if you're going to do Star Trek, you have to have the entire crew. And he was going to walk away from the series if they didn't agree to bring in George Takei and Nichelle Nichols. They were going to try to bring Walter Koenig back, but for budgetary reasons, is the story that I read, they couldn't bring him back. Although Walter has the distinction. He has the distinction. He has the distinction of writing an episode for the I'm sorry, Bob.
I fail to see the humor in this.
Oh, sorry about that.
Well, but they also got Jimmy Doohan, right?
Yeah, they had Jimmy Doohan too. Sorry, I forgot.
And he did every voice.
He did a ton of voices, and he did the voice of the alien that took Walter Koenig's spot on the bridge.
So basically, Chekhov got screwed by Jimmy Doohan.
Oh, big time.
Big time. So everybody got back except Check. Well, it's okay because like the first season there was no Chekhov, so
Right.
it's fair. It's fair enough. Fair enough.
Hey, but right now, Walter Koenig is like lasting longer than any of them. So
I was gonna say he'll
aside from
outlive them all.
Shatner,
The ultimate revenge.
That's right.
What I thought was also interesting, though, was they brought back Dorothy Fontana. And Dorothy was instrumental in that first couple of seasons of the original series, just keeping it going. She not only came back as a writer, but she was the associate producer for the animated series. Gene Roddenberry had her supervising all the writers and the scripts, and then Filmation handled all the animation and the colors that they used. You're going to notice, and if you haven't already watched some of these episodes, they have pink tribbles in the tribble episode. Some of the distinctions that the animated series has, though, Star Trek, the animated series, it was the first Star Trek series to win an Emmy.
Oh.
Yes. The episode How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth got a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Entertainment in a Children's Series back in 1975.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and like I said, they originally wanted to have like adolescent Starfleet cadets, and Gene was just so against it. He didn't want to do like a child Trek.
Mm-hmm. They were always pushing that idea. I mean, they're still kind of pushing that idea.
Star Trek babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the better or more interesting Next Generation episodes, I can't think of the name of the episode off the top of my head, had I think it was called Lower Decks, and it wasn't cadets, but it was like newly stationed officers on the Enterprise. Some good stories potentially.
Yeah, that's a big difference from, they were always trying to push the cadets, like really young teenage cadets. So that was a really good episode, though, the Lower Decks.
Yeah, definitely. So like I had said, they brought back Takei, they brought back Nichelle Nichols, they had Jimmy Doohan. When he was auditioning for Gene for the original series, they were trying to figure out, well, what kind of an accent, what kind of a dialect, what type of a ethnicity would an engineer be on a starship? And so Jimmy, he'd go out to these conventions and he'd do all these different dialects and voices of who he was trying to show Gene could be an engineer. And ultimately they went with the Scotsman. But yeah, he would do many of the voices on the show. Eric Bob was the name of the helmsman who took over for Chekhov. Chekhov had already been transferred over to the Reliant at that point.
Yeah, I thought I remembered a more exotic name than Eric, but I guess not.
I think it was Erex.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, Erex.
That's better.
Majel came back also. I forgot to mention Majel Barrett.
Mrs. Roddenberry.
Mrs. Roddenberry. Now, she came back and she did a couple of different voices too.
Well, she did like the computer voice in the original Star Trek, in addition to playing Nurse Chapel. But
I don't think it was the original Star Trek, but in the animated series, it was Majel who played the voice of the Enterprise, the computer. This is also one of 3 times. There's 3 episodes in here where some of the female officers assumed command of the Enterprise for different reasons. Uhura specifically takes command of the ship in the episode The Lorelei Signal.
Lorelei,
yeah. Good episode. And, actually, I guess the Cage, you had number 1 taking over for Captain Pike.
Yeah, they got rid of her quickly.
We talked earlier about one of my favorite almost picks, the Super Friends. I love the intro, Ted Knight with his deep voice, the Justice League, dun, 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 all that good stuff. Ted Knight was actually in an episode of Star Trek, the animated series.
Oh, really? So I assume he played an alien, or?
The episode was The Survivor, and he appears as Carter Winston, a well-mustached man in a yellow jacket.
I actually remember him.
Yep, he was actually a shape-shifting alien. So
interesting.
Now, originally, this was
Ted Knight. Actually, he did a lot of voices over the years. You can even hear him as one of the head Mysterians in the movie The Mysterians.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Well, yeah, he has such a wonderful voice. I mean,
good night and good news.
What I found interesting also was originally the animated series was considered to be official Trek canon. It was part of the chronology of the Star Trek universe.
Well, it was technically season 4, right?
Well, and that's the thing, Bob. When you watch these episodes, they're only a half hour or 23, 24 minutes. But because they had the writers from the original series, they had Dorothy on board, they had Gene Roddenberry on board. The voice, the actors were actual stars from the show. It's like a 4th and 5th season because they had 2 seasons of this animated series.
I only thought it went 1. They went 2?
It was 2. Now, the second season, I want to say, was like under 10 episodes. It didn't go the full 16 or however many episodes per season. It wasn't 26.
So how many episodes total were there?
Bob, there were 16 episodes in the first season and only 6 for the second season. Hey, technically that gave them their 5-year mission and helped them transition into the motion picture. So I'll go with that.
That's right. So they probably almost went right into filming the movie after the cartoon, right?
There was
almost
probably about 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm. So that was when they would have been thinking about doing Star Trek Phase 2.
Right, because I want to say October of 74, November of 74 is when the last animated series episode aired. And yeah, like Karen was saying, Phase 2 was very heavily being developed at that point.
Right.
Well, I know for a while they were talking about Paramount starting a new TV network. And they were going to have Star Trek as kind of the lead in on that.
That was going to be the big selling point for them to launch the Paramount network. And the reason that the production costs for the motion picture were so high is because they threw all of the production money that they spent developing Phase 2 over to the motion picture budget. So not only did they have to make money to recuperate what they spent on the motion picture, they had to pick up the slack on Phase 2 development.
So I know one of the issues people have over the animated series is the fact that Roddenberry later on was like, oh, no, that's not canon. It's not part of the real Star Trek series.
Right.
But there were certain episodes which people really did feel should be included, and they were later on referenced in some of the shows, like Yesteryear, the one where the adult Spock goes back through the Guardian of Forever and meets his younger self. I mean, that was actually, I know it was referenced in some, even if kind of obliquely referenced in either, I think, some of the films or some of the later series. And
well, you're right, because in J.J. Abrams' 2009 film, the part of young Spock getting bullied and getting into a fight with some of his classmates happened in that episode yesterday.
Right.
Yeah. So, and it is considered canon. There was a part where, Captain April was actually listed as a captain of the Enterprise in the encyclopedia, and it is considered canon now. So, and they're fun episodes to watch. I mean, they really are.
Kind of sounds like maybe Gene didn't get the residuals he had hoped for.
Well, it's funny because Gene was the master salesman, or he would take cells from the animated series and sell it on his, Lincoln. What was it called?
Lincoln Enterprises. Yeah.
And famously, why Spock had to wear the IDIC, infinite diversity and infinite combinations, because Roddenberry was hawking it on his catalog.
Yeah.
Site.
People kind of forget that the idea that Gene had these high-minded principles and was like a futurist, that all sort of came after Star Trek became immensely popular.
Right.
Before that, he was just a TV producer trying to make a buck. So,
and no harm, no foul. We love
Sure.
the great bird of the galaxy, but there was a business aspect to it as well.
he did put together a show that had a lot of great ideals. So I'm just, the idea that he was some sort of guru is a little misguided.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Also of note, which I thought was interesting, is the animated series introduced the holodeck to Star Trek. There was an episode, The Practical Joker. It wasn't called a holodeck. It was simply titled The Rec Room. And in the episode, Sulu, McCoy, and Uhura enter the large empty room, and they end up going to a beach, and mayhem ensues. No spoilers.
I didn't recall that.
We're each allowed to spoil one episode.
Well, Karen, we were talking about yesteryear. Mark Leonard actually returned to play Spock's father. That was not Jimmy Doohan.
Well, that's kind of a relief.
Jimmy wasn't available that day.
Yeah. No, they brought back like characters like Cyrano Jones and Harry Mudd, and
Yeah, they had that one episode. Was it More Tribbles, More Troubles?
Yes. That was a good episode too. Like I said, that's the first time we get to see pink Tribbles.
And they had like this alien creature that ate Tribbles, right? That's how he was like.
Right.
That's how he cleared the space station and how he was keeping the population down.
The Glommer.
The Glommer. Exactly.
That's all I actually remember from the episode. The Glommer.
Yep. So that was my pick. And I, a lot of times we'll try to freshen our memories by watching Creature from the Black Lagoon or, whatever. I've been watching these all along, these episodes. I got the DVD set. I watch it on Netflix. I drive my wife crazy with all the Star Trek that I watch. But God bless her. She knows all the captains and she knows what series they belong to. So
now I'm thinking back on the series right now. Wasn't there an episode where they had Satan on there or Lucifer?
Oh,
they had the devil in
Yeah.
like one episode, right?
Sort of, yeah.
Yes, and it wasn't Satan per se. He, although it involved time travel, and they go back to, where did they burn the witches?
Salem,
Massachusetts.
They go back to Salem, and the crew's locked up in stockades. And the guy's name eludes me, but
I think it was Lucian.
Lucian, yes. And he kind of reminded me of Apollo. He wasn't a god, but he kept on referring to them as his friends. And they had to go through some kind of a vortex. It was a really trippy episode. Very colorful, though.
I was going to say it sounded like a bad acid trip.
Very much so. Yeah, but anyway, it was a great episode. And it was very daring at the time. And I'm thinking as I'm watching it now, was it because, there were movies like Rosemary's Baby out at the time, and they were kind of like getting I don't know. I really can't understand. The guy does look demonic, and he has like the feet, hooves feet, like, a pan or some kind of a mystical creature.
Well, I mean, that was shortly after The Exorcist, right? Or right about the time of The Exorcist.
Yeah.
I want to say, because it's like 75. So
devils were huge back then.
Yeah.
Trying to capitalize on it.
They hadn't quite gone into the satanic panic stage.
Yeah. There was an episode too where they had Quetzalcoatl appear in like his animal form, and that was kind of trippy. But anyway, it is a very fun series to watch, and near and dear to my heart. And if not to everyone else, to me it is like a season 4 and part of a season 5 for the original series. So you get a chance, check it out. Any last minute words on your series or honorable mentions you guys want to throw out there before we get into our censor suite?
Well, I know before we started talking, one of the shows I mentioned that I had a fondness for, which I hadn't thought of before we started the show, really, was that Batman Tarzan Adventure Hour.
Yes.
By our friends Filmation. It was pretty good. I liked the Batmobile in that, and Tarzan had some great adventures. So I think that's actually available. I think it's one of those on-demand DVD things.
Oh, I have to check it out on one of those.
I remember Tarzan because I used to watch that all the time. I wouldn't mind getting that. Again, yeah, as he swung through the trees, it was all rotoscoped, but...
it's funny, the thing with Filmation too, and not just the animated series, but if you check out their other series, they would blink the eyes of the characters and move the mouth when they were talking, but they would never turn the neck left or right. So it's almost like they have a kink in their neck and they're talking to that does kind of throw me off a little, but...
Well, that was basically Hanna Barbera came up with all that, because they were, Hanna Barbera were actually animators for MGM and did many, many, many Tom and Jerry cartoons.
Yeah.
But then they saw the writing on the wall that TV was coming in and taking over. And it was like, okay, so how do we do cartoons for TV, but not on a movie budget? And so they came up with the idea of static bodies, static heads, and this, redrawing the mouth or the eyes blink once in a while or whatever. Limited movement. And that was kind of what ushered in, like I say, like the Yogi Bears and the Huckleberry Hounds and the Magilla Gorillas, and all those.
Well, and kids, we'd be remiss if we didn't have an honorable mention for our official mascot, unofficial mascot, Popeye the Sailor. So toot toot.
Hey, I could go on for a whole episode on Popeye if I had to.
Bob's solo episode will be coming up at a later date.
I thought I was going to do a solo Jonny Quest episode for a while.
We were talking about, what our picks are going to be and stuff. And in our, I won't call it a meeting, just, talking to each other. And Bob was like, oh my God, I could do like episode after episode after episode on different animations. So if you guys like this episode, let us know. Karen's got Batman, Tarzan. Bob's got the Flintstones and Yogi Bear. Who knows what I'll come up with.
Flintstones and Yogi Bear. No. Next up would be Speed Racer.
No, I got Speed Racer, buddy. I'm sorry.
No,
you got to stick with Yogi. No, I jest.
Well, another thing we could do, which I had mentioned to Larry, we could also do our favorite kids live action show. And if we do that, I'm staking a claim to Arc 2.
All right. You all heard that here first.
All yours, because I vaguely remembered it.
Hey, it has a talking chimpanzee in it, so I'm all over that.
Hey, you can't go wrong. I probably have to do HR Puffin stuff.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah.
I was more of a Sigmund the Sea Monster type of guy.
That's a close second for me, Bob. Actually, I used to love Sigmund and the theme song too.
Those are both Marty Krofft shows,
how about
right?
Danger Island?
Uh-oh, Congo or Chongo. Dick Donner actually directed those episodes.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Right? He would go on to film Superman and Lethal Weapon and all those other good Hollywood films.
Jan Michael Vincent was in that.
That's right. God. Okay, guys. So let us know what you think. We're more than willing. There's enough material for us to go out there and do this. It's that part in the show where we do our sensor sweep, where the latest and greatest items that come across our internet or desk at home. And I have it this episode. I'm actually looking at Star Trek, the official guide to the animated series, which kind of ties into what I was talking about today, which I used in coming up with some of the factoids that I shared with you guys. Now, this fine tome is written by Aaron Harvey and Rich Shepis. Pardon me if I butcher the pronunciation of gentlemen's names. And they are fans of the series. You can tell in their research and their writings that they're fans. And there's great photos of scripts, designing of aliens. One of the things that they really enjoyed, at least Dorothy, in coming into writing the scripts, is they didn't have limitations on, let's have an army of Gorn, or let's have, a snake alien, or let's have, they didn't have to worry about zippers. They didn't have to worry about actors overheating. So there's a lot of good information in this book, and a lot of, like I said, great pictures. They actually show some of the young, there was a test of the young crew of the animated series before they decided to go with Kirk and Spock and all that. The writing of Spock's pet Saylet. They have sketches of that from the Yesteryear episode, and it's just great. I highly recommend it. You can find it at your local bookstore or off of the interwebs. Check it out and let me know what you think.
Every weekend, meet strange and mysterious creatures. The fire-breathing Kukulkan, the ferocious clan of Kazintis, eerie Aquans, terrible Tribbles, menacing Klingons, terrifying pterodactyls, and that's only the beginning.
Mr. Spock, did you see what I think I just saw?
Journey into unknown space with Captain Kirk and the crew of the Starship Enterprise. Beam up to Star Trek every weekend.
This Power Blast ketchup tastes awesome. I wonder where they got it.
There's an energy flux on planet Bendown.
I'm getting a reading. It appears to be a rare type of spicy and tasty ketchup.
Right. Power Blast ketchup is now at Burger King. Now in every big kid's meal, you can get one of your favorite Justice League toys and watch Superman roll, Batman rise, and Wonder Woman lasso. There's 8 toys in all, so you can start upholding truth and justice at Burger King today.
Now on new PF Flyer Adventure, starring Jonny Quest. Something was wrong on the volcano. Race was flashing a message. In danger, bring rope. Johnny flashed back his answer with his PF magic ring. Coming. He ran like the wind. Lucky he was wearing his PF Flyers, the action shoes. Only PFs have the action wedge built right in, so you run your fastest and jump your highest. There was Race. In seconds, the red-hot lava would reach him, but the action shoes got Johnny there first. Race was saved thanks to Jonny Quest and his action shoes, PF Flyers.
Say, boys and girls, want a PF magic ring like mine? It has a magnifying glass, a secret compartment, a message flasher, and a secret code circle. You get one free at the store with PF Flyers. So get the shoes with the PF patch and get your PF magic ring free.
On that note, this will conclude this transmission from Planet 8. We would like to thank all of our intergalactic audience for listening. Be sure to head on over to our website at www.planet8podcast.com, where you can get more information on this episode's topic.
For more conversation, find us on Twitter at Planet8Cast.
Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Planet8Podcast.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every episode. We look forward to your input and opinions. Until next time, this is Planet 8 signing off. End transmission.
By George, he's got it. It is the end.
On that note, this will conclude this transmission from Planet 8. We would like to thank all of our intergalactic audience for listening. Be sure to head on over to our website at www.planet8podcast.com, where you can get more information on this episode's topic.
For more conversation, find us on Twitter at Planet8Cast.
Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Planet8Podcast.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every episode. We look forward to your input and opinions. Until next time, this is Planet 8 signing off. End transmission.
By George, he's got it. It is the end.